Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, Hari Bol, welcome to our Jaiva-Dharma session. So we'll sing the beautiful bhajan of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jai Radha Madhava, which takes us all through Braj, if we meditate on its beautiful import. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Oh Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha, Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Oh Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Oh Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo. Oh Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Oh Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Jaya Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachi Nandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Oh Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe, Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Radhe, Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Ganhavika Giridhari. Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Brishabhana Nandini Vajeshwari Radharani Ki Jai. Nityananda Rai Ki Jai. Sachinandana Gaurahari Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Surabhi Kunj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashi Shimat. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashi Shimat. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashi Shimat. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashi Shimat. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaurikishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Baladevi Vibhushan Gaudi Vedantaracharya Ki Jai. Jai Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya Ki Jai. Jai Srila Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhata Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsad Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Siga Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasati Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautramdvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Ritujit Janadvip Modamdvip Rudradvip Atmaka Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwadasa Marmatnaka Brajamandal Ki Jai. Radha Kund Shama Kund Tulsi Devi Brinda Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Gopishwa Mahadev Ki Jai. Punamasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai. Ketra Mandal Ki Jai. Sarva Vigna Vinashakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Chari Dham Ki Jai. Chari Sampradaya Ki Jai. Chari Acharya Ki Jai. Akara Mat Raj Ki Jai. Akara Mat Raj Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Keshavji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Anant Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Om Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tarale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Sarupe Daita Sarupe Prema Sarupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Prabhueka Rupe Tatana Rupe Swavilasa Rupe Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuruna Vartino Kalo Samarpaitam Unnata Ujjalarasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundaratu Dikatam Vasadipita Sadahridare Kandare Spuratu Vasachinandanaha Yam Pravajantam Anapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Tarabo Benedustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanato Shmi Bhaktya Vihina Aparara Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Brinde Namaste Charanaravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Paradram Tato Mamnasti Katyana Kapi Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charantikam. And post of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarzarshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarzarshi Shimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And the same again unto our Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchitananda Namane Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. And unto all the illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhavevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnave namo namaha. So coming to our Falshruti of our Jaiva-Dharma, and we're up to the first 5 verses. Pritivite yatakata dharma name chale bhagavata kahe saha paripurna chale.
As indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, second shloka, all the philosophies on earth that are celebrated as dharma are utterly deceptive.
So we've discussed many times, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is bringing out constantly these 4 purusarthas that are embraced by most of the populace of India: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, and they center their lives on it. And it keeps them dharmic. It keeps them materially dharmic. But to take them to the higher stages that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, the 5th purusartha must be there, of Nitya Prem, of Braja Prem. This must be there. If that is not being indicated, or at least Shuddha Bhakti must be there. If that is not there, then what is left? Moksha, Nirvishesh Brahm, or Karma Yoga. So we've said before, Vyasadeva was writing many scriptures with a focus on Karma Kand and Gyan Kand. But we must ourselves, in our own lives, even if we're following the path of bhakti, beware of falling into different degrees of Karma Kand or Gyan Kand. We can have our Purusartha on bhakti, but then at the same time we can be performing so many karmic motivated activities in the world, which means that we're actually not really focusing on Shuddha Bhakti or Ananya Bhakti. Actually, this is the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So many times we might be talking about Bhakti or Nitya Prem or Braja Prem, but actually in our lives we're subtly trying to acquire various material comforts in this sojourn that we're going through this body. And we may become disenchanted by our practices and think subtly about actually that impersonal conception. So we have to be very guarded, even though we're following the path of bhakti. We are talking about bhakti. We're trying to educate ourselves in what is nitya prem, what is pure bhakti. but still these residual impressions that we've received in many lifetimes of Nirvishesh Brahm, they can manifest in subtle ways. We have to be cautious if we sense. But this education of Jaiva-Dharma is showing us so conclusively, so specifically, again and again and again. The first chapter, second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter, all the chapters are pointing in the direction of what is paramartik shraddha. And these vivharic practices, material practices, are and that's okay if we're still practicing the material activities, no problem. But at least be in knowledge of that. At least be in knowledge. We said this yesterday. If we're going to engage in something that is not focusing towards bhakti, at least be telling ourselves. Don't try and convince yourself that it is. I can remember one time I was with some uh, devotees, they called themselves, in Radhakund even, and they were smoking ganja. And they were thinking that from their practice of smoking ganja, they could enhance their devotion to Krishna. And they were dependent on that. So this is illusion, complete, deep, dark illusion. If someone tries to condone a sinful act, like intoxication, for example, and try to claim, well, this is enhancing my bhakti. This is completely um, uh, against Dharma. This has nothing to do with Shuddha Dharma or pure practice. And we're discussing a lot about Varnashram. It's not even in the Varnashram system to actually become intoxicated and expect that this is going to bring me to a higher state of Krishna consciousness. That's going to be in the subtle realm. Try to understand that any type of intoxicant is going to take us into the subtle world, not into the transcendental world. So the subtle world is there. I described yesterday like the third dimension, so to speak, the different planetary systems and the different personalities who are residing, the Swagaloka, etc., all the devas, all the different um, phantasmagoria things that we can get distracted by. But it is a distraction. We have to be steady. My Gurudev used to say, like iron. We should know what is the fifth Purusartha, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the treatise that really delineates this, because we go through 9 cantos in preparation for the 10th canto before we actually come to the shining face of the Lord. And these 9 cantos are so purifying. They're all about different loving relationships with Krishna, different personalities like Vidura, Uddhav, King Prithu, all these different Priyavrata, all these different personalities, even Ajamil eventually, and even Indra becomes like purified through his different activity. Bali Maharaj, one of the Mahajans. So we see all these personalities and we take lessons from their different pastimes that they performed to purify our existence, to become eligible for the 10th canto, where only purest devotion, especially when it comes to the 5 Gits or the chapters after chapter 20. After chapter 20 in the 10th canto, then 20th chapter is like the rainy season. And chapter 21 is Venugit. Straight away, we're going into the conceptions of these perfect personalities, these gopis, without following in the footsteps of the gopis. No genuine, pure Raganuga Bhakti is going to manifest ever, because the gopis are the shining example of how to bring pleasure to the Lord totally. So, this is the path that devotees want to imbibe. Chale dharma
Chaladharmacharikara
charikara satya
Satyadharmamati
dharmamati
Chaturvarga
Chaturvargatyajidhara
Nitya
nitya prema
Premagati.
gati.
One should completely abandon such deceptive dharmas and observe his mind in true dharma. In other words, one should give up the fourfold goals of material life, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and aspire solely for the ultimate destination of Nitya Prem.
He can't say it more emphatically. You can't say it more emphatically. Amitvamimam
Tvam
samprame
sabrame
nija
nija
jade
jada
buddhi
buddhi
nirvishesha
nirvishesha brahmagyane
brahmagyana
nahe
yacheta
chita
shuddhi.
shruti. Those who are deluded identify themselves with matter. That is their error. However, one cannot be purified of such delusion by endeavors for nirvishesh
It
brahmagyan.
is our error. We have to take full responsibility and have no excuses for our predicament where we found ourselves. Don't try and make, oh, I had a bad upbringing, my father beat me, I was starved, or there's so many different reasons we can point the finger to someone else. This is called in English the victim complex, where it's not ultimately my fault, but unless we take that full responsibility for this predicament we are in, we will never get out of it. We have the keys in our hand, so we'll never even recognize we have the keys until we accept responsibility. As soon as we accept, don't become babies and think, oh, eventually by my practices, everything's going to happen just nicely. We have to take some definite stand in this direction. We have to find, we have to um, connect with our transcendental inner identity in relationship to the supreme transcendental entity in that connection. Without that connection, then nothing is going to transpire, nothing at all. Um, Ivichrata hina
Hina
hale
hoy
nirvishesha
nirvishesha hoy
hoy kala
kala sai matulya
samutolya
seya
seya
aprakrita
aprakartanai.
nai. The Mayavadi thinks Sri Krishna to be subject to the limitations of time, such as birth and death, and considers that he is not transcendental. Thus, he rejects Sri Bhagavan's Vichitrata, astonishing characteristics, paraphernalia, qualities, and Leela. Through this vicious attempt, he is left with the philosophy of Nirvishesha Brahm.
In that place of Nivrishesh Brahm, everything is beautiful. You have no more desires, no more lamentation, there's no more suffering for the jiva, but there's no relationship. And there's no awareness of Krishna's divine pastimes. Imagine being in that place and not even aware that Krishna becomes bind by his mother, or be aware of the Vrindavan pastimes, all of the Vrindavan pastimes, Kaliya, Dhenukasura, etc., Brahma Vimohan Lila, all of these pastimes just miss you out, especially the gopis, the Ras Lila. None of that. Imagine being in a place where none of that is actually broadcast, or none of that comes to your heart, your ears. This is most unfortunate, and this is Nirvishesh Brahm.
Kandagyan
Jnane
heya
haya
dharma
dharma
ache
ache
sunishchaya
sunishchaya
prakrita
prakriti
haile
hale
kabu
sabhuta
aprakrita
chetanaya.
naya. Such base and contemptible gyan, which arises out of an attempt to dismember the divine form of Bhagavan, is only fit to be rejected. It is prakrita, materialistic, and should never be given credence as aprakrita dharma.
This Valshruti is so powerful. It's so strong. Every day we're reading it, and every day these emphatic truths are coming from the lotus-like heart of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So direct. There can be no misunderstanding. He's saying it absolutely. A fool would be misunderstanding these, but a fool will not even read this from the beginning. Nevertheless, we may be foolish and start to read this and then lose our foolishness by reading this. So it's a process of absorption. So I think we're on page 111, and we read this verse yesterday on the top of page 111. Parikyasya lokan karmachitan brahmano. We read that verse yesterday, right? So I'm just going to read the paragraph underneath it because it's again to catch up where we are. We understand where we are, that Vaishnava Das is chipping away at very deep sanskars. These pundits are not just ordinary on the street brahmanas, they are paka brahmanas, and they've had lifetimes probably of practicing this brahmana caste philosophy of nyaya and of teaching it, debating it, etc. It's their life and soul. So it's a major challenge that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing here. And Vaishnav Das is just performing. He doesn't actually convince them in the chapter, but he convinces them of the greatness of Vaishnava Das. They walk away chanting his glories. So this is the beginning of their journey because they've glorified the Vaishnava, but they haven't accepted because it's just too much of a leap. It's such a massive quantum leap. The consciousness can't cope with such enormous changes of thought. It's not equipped to challenge. It would just send the person mad. So it's a gradual process. So saying karma, yoga, and gyan all produce naimitic sukriti, these three paths, and these brahmanas only believe in karma, yoga, and gyan. But they think, their illusion is that they think they're performing bhakti. Bhakta Sangha, the association of bhaktas, and Bhakti Kriya Sangha, contact with acts of devotion, produces nitya sukriti. Only one who has accumulated nitya sukriti over many lifetimes will develop shraddha. This is the topic, shraddha. Naimitic sukriti produces many different results, but it will not lead to the development of faith in unalloyed bhakti. So yes, so much.
Maharaj,
Um,
like suppose there are devotees who are practicing Vaidhi Bhakti, and will that is the intention important there? Because that is also the kriya which they are doing is like a Sukruti Nitya, like chanting now. The devotees over there, the chanting, the reading Bhagavatam, but their motive is like they don't know that we have to like. Uh,
if they haven't picked up the mercy of Mahaprabhu,
hmm,
Mahaprabhu has only come to give Raganuga Bhakti. And I said yesterday that even my Gurudev was saying, I was listening yesterday, he was saying, even for thousands of births, if you've practiced this Vaidhi Bhakti, you cannot attain that Goloka Vrindavan. You can attain Vaikuntha, because in Vaikuntha, that mood of Vaidhi Marg is prevalent. And that is the staibhav of the Vaikuntha Vasis. That is their intrinsic rasa. Two and a half rasas in Vaikuntha, Shantaras, Dasyaras, and a little bit of Sakyaras. When we read this Brihat Bhagavatamrita and see Gop Kumar, he's there associating with Lord Narayan, and all the Vaikuntha are singing beautiful hymns, etc., to please Lord Narayan. But Gop Kumar, he wants to dance, he wants to frolic around. That's his spontaneous mood. And all the other Vaikuntha are hushing him up, saying, no, 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 keep your suit and tie on, so to speak. Don't behave like a madman in front of Lord Narayan. Be very well behaved. Don't become spontaneous. And those Vaikuntha they love that mood. That is their Staibhav. Their Staibhav is there. From nature, they're born there. And like we can understand this, we were just saying about perhaps the South Indian Brahmanas, they relish that Aishwarya mood. They would not want to. Mahaprabhu, when he was in the house in Sri Rangam of Yankatabata, it took him a whole 4 months of the rainy season. And only at the very end did he begin to make some progress with the heart of Yankatabata to convince him that actually the gopis' prem is more superior to Lakshmi Devi's prem, because that's the ultimate. Who is Lakshmi Devi? She's Kaivyuha of Sri Radhika, but in a mood of Aishwarya. And Krishna likes Aishwarya. That's why it exists. Vaikuntha is a place of supreme opulence. And those devotees who go to that place absolutely relish that. And they would never want to change that. So they remain in that Vaikuntha Prem. It's described as Vaikuntha Prem. But it's in the rasas of Shanta and Dasya principally. Little bit of Sakya. But there's a mood, and they can never change that because it's their intrinsic staibhav. It's not like you go from Vaikuntha, and then where are you going to get any influence in Vaikuntha? Where did Gop Kumar get influence? Narad had to come and whisper in Gop Kumar's ear, oh, come with me, chant your mantra, chant your Gopal mantra, come to the place of, where was it after Vaikuntha? Was Mathura, I think, yeah, and then Dwarka. So come to this next place. don't linger here. So only because of the association of Narad was he able to actually his staibar wasn't fitting in with Vaikuntha. But all the residents of Vaikuntha relish that. That's their staibar, their nature. So Vaidhi is practiced in Vaikuntha, but Vaidhi is not, we understand, because we've been blessed with the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to hear from the sadhus who have been blessed to give us the teachings of Mahaprabhu explicitly from Rupa Goswami principally, Premras Niryase, Korite as well. Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's saying in the 4th chapter of Adi Lila and in the 8th chapter of Madhya Lila, Ramananda Roy Sambad, very, very clearly what is the opportunity for a sadhak in the current of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's radically different from Vaikuntha. And when we see people who are very much engaged in rules and regulations and not even hearing or even condemning those who are speaking about Raskata, this is most unfortunate because Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, he certainly never spoke like this. He gave us the nectar of devotion and the nectar of instruction, both of these beautiful books of Rupa Goswami, to influence us towards Raganuga. But he could not teach that prominently because his mission was, first of all, put Krishna into the picture. He was preaching to practically animals, barbarians from the Western world who I had never heard of Krishna in my life until Prabhupada brought him to the Western shores. Never, ever. As a child growing up, I'd heard of Jesus. My father was a Methodist priest, and I understood that religion was a very shallow presentation of Jesus from a very early age. But nevertheless, that indoctrination, and I always prayed to God, but it was in a Nirvishesh Brahm conception because I had no idea. No one had told me about the personality form. It was just a prayer. It's like we talked about the Sufis the other day, and I sent one video around, and we see they're actually like, you look at the eyes on a few of those people when they're dancing, it's like they're getting infatuated with the Brahman, that impersonal Brahman nature. So that's the alternative if we don't hear about Krishna. But even hearing about Krishna, and then you don't hear about Raganuga Bhakti, after you've come in the time, because this time, after Mahaprabhu, is even more powerful practically than the time when Mahaprabhu was present, because this Krishna consciousness is so readily available. It's been broadcast so widely across the planet. You can pick up any cell phone and you can find a whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you can read all these topics. If people read the Adi Lila chapter 4, you cannot be in any doubt. So it's bewildering how people are rigorously, what do you call, carefully following the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti and not even looking to a higher quarter. They've been tricked and they won't reach, they will reach Swaga perhaps. That's the place where they can reach by following carefully Vaidhi Bhakti. And perhaps if their Staibhav is in Vaikuntha, then at some future birth, perhaps with association from a Vaikuntha Vasi, because everything has to be association. If you're fortunate to have a Vaikuntha Vasi even, then you have to listen very closely to how he's describing Vaikuntha and what you have. That's like a South Indian Brahmin, very strict, very careful about all the principles and the yagyas and the mantras, etc. Have to be perfectly pronounced. And then you become eligible for Vaikuntha Ras or this Vaikuntha Prem. But Goloka Vrindavan is another prakosht. It's another dimension altogether. Does that answer your question? Chudamani, please explain clearly what you mean by Bhakti Sangha and Bhakti Kriya Sangha, contact with acts of devotion. From what type of Sukriti do these arise? Actually, Chudamani, we can sense Bhaktivinoda Thakur is demonstrating he's getting something. He's getting,
Melting.
huh?
He's melting.
Yes, he's beginning to melt. He doesn't melt because it's like Devidas.
Mm.
Devidas began to melt, But then he came confronted with the Muslims, and that's why this whole chapter is coming. So the beginning process, but then some ancient objective objection will come in the mind and put a brick wall there and stop, because you have to go deeper and deeper into the consciousness of your own commitments and your own identity.
But don't you think, Maharaj, he'll melt because he's in touch, he's getting association of Vaishnavadas, who's a very pure.
Yes, he's getting Sukriti.
Sukr.
Even he doesn't know that,
Yeah.
but he's getting. That's why all his questions aren't so aggressive and as
Hmm.
challenging. And
It
it's as if,
was, in the beginning, it was really.
yes, he was fighting, but now there's a touch of sincerity there. He actually wants to know, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur wants to explain the depth of these truths, and he can only do that when the questioner is favorable. If you challenge too much, then you can't receive the answer. It never works that way. It has to be tadvidi pranipasena sevaya. It has to be in a mood like that, of submissive Sharanagat. Vaishnav Das. Bhakta Sangha means conversing with Shuddha Bhaktas, serving them and hearing their discourses. We've already described Sharanagati. We've described the six symptoms of Sharanagati. He's described faith in detail here. This is a really powerful chapter. All the details of Shraddha have been put on the pages here. Shuddha Bhaktas perform the activities of bhakti, such as public congregational chanting of Sri Nam. Participating in these activities or performing them on one's own is called Bhakti Kriya Sangha, contact with acts of devotion, so either congregationally or alone. Either way will give you advancement. In the Shastras, activities such as cleansing the temple of Sri Hari, offering a lamp to Tulsi, and observing Harivasha, Ekadasi, Janmastami, Ramnomi, and other such days are called Bhakti Kriya. Even if one performs them accidentally or without pure Shraddha, they still create Bhakti Proshika Sukriti, virtue that nourishes devotion. Proshika, that's how you say that.
Poshak.
Proshaka. When this Sukriti acquires strength after many lifetimes, we have to settle down and realize that it's not just going to happen. We're so used to, in this world, quick, fast food, fast this, fast lane of the highway. Minds are just going 1,000 miles an hour with all these electronics and stuff. It's exhausting for the mind to keep up. And we have this expectation constantly. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, just to share with you, because we were talking about Trinada Pisunichana yesterday, this beautiful verse, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has described one explanation is that humility means having no expectations. No expectations. Consider that. You have no expectations of anybody else, and you're not over expectant of anything within yourself except the mercy of the Lord. But if you have no expectations, then you can remain in a very humble state of mind. No expectations. It
Even
has,
from Krishna.
huh?
No expectation from Krishna.
Exactly. You're not expecting Krishna to come like and treat you like a baby or a miracle to happen. You just want, and what do you want from
Love.
Krishna anyway?
We
You want to
want to
give
give
him
him.
something. So it's about giving, not with our hand out. Well, Krishna, if I do the arti today, will you give me some mercy? I'm doing the reading today, so you're going to give me some mercy? So I'll get a better life in my next birth? Is that all I'm thinking about? The expectancy of future like that, rather than the principle of, am I cultivating my innate attraction, my natural attraction to Krishna? Is that manifesting my natural attraction? Not coerced, not forced by rules and regulations or even Sangha, etc., but individually focused. Am I moving in that direction? Um, Even if one performs them accidentally or without pure Shraddha, they still create Bhakti Proshaka Sukriti, virtue that nourishes devotion. Devotion is a deep thing. When this Sukriti acquires strength after many lifetimes, Shraddha for Sadhu Sangha and Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotion, develops. It must be acknowledged that every Vastu, substance has some particular potency which is known as Vastu Shakti, the inherent potency of that substance we discussed before. What is pure Dharma? This was in the first chapter and the second chapter. What is pure Dharma? What is Shuddha Dharma? The in,
Swadharma.
huh?
Swadharma.
Swadharma. What is the intrinsic nature of that object? Like, for example, you can just take a mundane example like a broom.
Mm.
What is its Swadharma is to sweep. It's not really to be used as anything else. So our Swadharma is to serve Krishna. That's our nature. That's why it can't be coerced. Even Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada said right at the very beginning, this is not an imposition for the mind. It's not to be an imposition. If it's a big weight on the consciousness, that's not really in the path of bhakti. You will come into the path of gyan if you think it's by your own efforts and want to accumulate more and more and more um, knowledge, etc. But knowledge coming in that way, the empiric way, is like the aroha panta, the ascending path, not the soft avaroha panta. This is these activities produce sukriti even if they are performed indifferently. What to speak when they are performed with faith? This is expressed in the Prabhash Kand quoted in Hari Bhakti Vilas
म-
11:41.
मधुर मधुरम् एतान् मङ्गलं मङ्गलानां सकलनिगमवली सत्फलं चित्स्वरूपं सकृदम् अपि परिगीतं श्रद्धया हेलया वा भृगुवरनरं मात्रं तारयेत् कृष्णनामम्.
Sri Krishna Nam is the sweetest among all things that are sweet, and it stands supreme amongst all that is auspicious. It is the eternal, fully ripened spiritual fruit of the wish-fulfilling tree of the Vedas. O best of the Brigus, if anyone even once offenselessly chants Sri Krishna Nam, either with faith or indifference, Sri Krishna Nam immediately delivers that person from the ocean of material existence. Incredible. This verse is actually in our songbook, right at the very beginning in the additional prayers. Many devotees, we chant this verse daily. Thus, all types of sukriti that nourishes bhakti are nitya sukriti. When this sukriti becomes strong, one gradually develops shraddha in ananya bhakti, unalloyed bhakti, and one attains sadhusanga. It's a process. It's a process. Birth in a Muslim family is the result of naimitic duskriti, or temporary impious deeds, whereas faith in ananya bhakti is the result of nitya sukriti, eternal pious deeds. What is surprising about this? Oh, Vaishnav Das is saying it very clearly, but Chudamani, we'll see. Chudamani, this is what I meant by my previous question. If there is such a thing as bhakti proshaka sukriti, virtue that nourishes devotion, it must arise from some other type of sukriti. But Muslims do not have any other type of sukriti, so it is not possible for them to have bhakti prosaka sukriti either. Good question. It's a good question.
But it's answered here. You see, Maharaj is saying that because of Duskriti, he's got this body.
Yes,
But the faith is not with the body,
right.
it is with the soul. That
And if he gets the sort of association that we've just been describing, and if he happens to, like many of the Muslims living in Bengal, for example, are not really full-fledged Muslims in the sense of in other countries like Pakistan or someone like that. Most of the Muslims or many of the Muslims in Bengal were converted from Hindus, and all of the Muslims here in Bengal, they're all subjected or influenced by the Janmashtami festivals, by all the Gaura Purnima festival, and so many influences that the Hindu tradition regularly puts out on the street, so to speak. Many of the Muslim ladies, they will wear sindhu in their hair. They will take,
Harinam,
yes,
they can hear Harinam.
yes, they hear Harinam constantly. So it's a different flavor. So they're getting something. Some Sukriti is coming there. So this is to support how a Muslim
Correct.
can actually go that way. Vaishnav Das, that is not a fact. Nitya Sukriti and Nimitic Sukriti are classified separately,
Mm.
so they do not depend on one another. There's Vyavaharik and
And
Paramatic. They're both actually separate, distinct. Like Vaidhi Bhakti is different to Raganuga Bhakti. It
it
doesn't.
is different from karma kand.
Karma and
Yeah.
Gyan, yes, but if it's leading to Bhakti, then it can be said to be the same ladder.
Mm.
Then it can be all one. If you're performing your karma and you're anxious to come to Gyan Yoga, and you realize the ladder that the ultimate goal is bhakti, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said many times, it's a single ladder. But when you separate them and say, no, we are Kam Kandis, we are Gyan Kandis, then you make a whole distinction when you separate them. But when they're together, then it's just the one. Um, no,
Once.
it is not a fact. Nitya Sukriti and Nimitic Sukriti are classified separately, so they do not depend on one another. Once there was a sinful hunter who was full of impious deeds, but he chanced to stay up all night and fast on Shivaratri. Because of the Nitya Sukriti he accrued from this, he developed eligibility for Hari Bhakti. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam 12:13-16, Vaishnavam Yata Shambhu. Among Vaishnavas, Shivji is the best. From this statement, it is understood that Mahadev is the most worshipable Vaishnava, and one obtains Hari Bhakti by observing a vow to please him. If someone's a Shaivite and they understand more the nature and merciful personality of Lord Shiva, in the 38th chapter of this book, there's the beautiful Astakalya Lila, and it's spoken by Lord Shiva to Narad. So Lord Shiva is so much Vaishnavam Yatar Shambhu. So we can understand these things. Chudamani, so do you mean to say that Nitya Sukriti comes about by chance? Vaishnav does. Everything comes about by chance. This is also the case on the path of karma. What is the circumstance by which the jiva first entered the cycle of karma? Can it be anything other than chance occurrence? The Mimamsa philosophers have described karma as anadi, being without beginning, but actually karma does have a root. The chance occurrence that brings one's original karma into effect is indifference to Bhagavan, Bhagavat Vimukha, Vimukata. So it's not actually by chance. It is indifference to Bhagavan that brings about our sojourn in this material world. It's like, for example, if you hide something in your hand and you put your hands behind your back and then you say to the child, which hand is the sweet in? So the child has a decision, but the result of this decision is not up to him. It can be this hand or this hand. So it's by chance. But
Simultaneous.
yes, simultaneously chance, and it's you have a decision making there.
Achintya. That's right.
Yes. Actually, in the 16th chapter, this is clearly described. That is vimuk.
Mm.
As soon as I turn away from Krishna for a split second and I have a self interest, it means, it indicates, like in a dream, if, say, for example, there's many devotees, then all of a sudden in a dream you just get distracted out the window to some set of steps that goes to a higher and you leave that association. That was your choice to leave it, but it was by chance that that option came in. So it's both, but ultimately it's our fault. We have to see it like that. If we don't see it like that, then we're going to play, like I said before, this victim. It's not my fault, but it is our fault. This brings up many points, but
Mm.
it's actually more for Jiva Tattva in the 16th chapter. The chance occurrence that brings one's original karma into effect is indifference to Bhagavan.
Like what you said, the chance of occurrence is a, what do you say? It's a result of forgetting Krishna.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's no chance.
And that forgetting Krishna means that subtly I want to actually be the enjoyer.
Mm.
It's this Mayavad tendency that is optional for us. We can either follow that or not. As soon as I want to enjoy anything, then I'm usurping Krishna's position. I'm taking away his supremacy. But if I'm always submissive, Sharanagat, etc., that we've discussed, with absolute faith in Krishna's love for me, we can appreciate that before I pray to generate my own affection to him. I can appreciate by so many different examples in the Shastra of his unlimited compassion to the fallen conditioned jivas. Similarly, Nitya Sukriti also seems to be a chance occurrence. It is said in the Svateshvarta Upanishad,
समाने वृक्षपुरुषो निगमनो निस्यसोचति मुह्यमानः जुष्टं यदा पश्यति अन्यम् ईशम् अस्य महिमानाम् एतिवीतशोकः.
the jiva and the indwelling Paramatma both reside in the same tree, namely the material body. The jiva is attached to material sense enjoyment and is therefore sunk in the bodily conception of life. Of course, we're sunk in it because we want some pleasure from that. So we have to be completely immersed in it. How much money have I got? How will I build a nice house? Is my car working today? This and this. So many details of material life that I get sunk in, absorbed, because I want something from this world. I want some pleasure. Bewildered by Maya, he cannot find any means of deliverance, and thus he laments. However, by the influence of Sukriti, acquired over many lifetimes, we're hearing this constantly, many
Mm.
lifetimes, he can obtain the mercy of Ishvara or his Shuddha Bhaktas. At that time, he will see in his heart that there is a second individual within the tree of his body. This is Ishvara, who is served eternally by his unalloyed bhaktas. When the jiva witnesses the uncommon glories of Sri Krishna, he becomes free from all lamentation. The consciousness of Krishna will immediately dispel any grievance or lamentation whatsoever. And what is the best way, easiest way for us to hear about? As Harinam will inspire us, but if we use the energy from Harinam to hear about Krishna's Leelas in Vrindavan, his pastimes, especially with the gopis, because it's by that connection that's going to carry us into the highest conception. This is what Mahaprabhu is giving, Rag Mag Bhakti Loke. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:51-53,
भवापवर्गो भ्रमतो यदा भावजे जनस्य तार्हि अच्युत समागमः सत्संगमो यर्हि तदैव सद्गतौ पर्वार्षे त्वयि जयते रतिः.
O Sri Achyuta, you are eternally situated in your original spiritual form. The jiva has been wandering in the cycle of birth and death since time without beginning. When the time for his release from this cycle approaches, he obtains satsanga, and through this he becomes firmly attached to you, who are the supreme goal of attainment for the sadhus and the controller of both spirit and matter. And in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-25,
सतां प्रसंगं मम वीरसंविदो भवन्ति रत्कर्णरसायन कतः तज्जोषणाद् अस्व अपवर्गवर्तमनि श्रद्धा रतिर् भक्तिर् अनुक्रमिष्यति.
so this is in the Kapila Sangvad to Devahuti in the third canto. In the association of Shuddha Bhaktas, the recitation and discussion of my glorious activities and pastimes are pleasing to both the heart and the ears. By cultivating knowledge in this way, one becomes established on the path of liberation and progressively attains Shraddha, then Bhav, and finally Prema Bhakti. So this progression, and it begins with the path of liberation. We all came, most of us come to this path because we desire liberation from the suffering of this material world. That's our impetus to actually coming. And then we, for some time, we still hold that desire for pleasure for me. But then the more we are able to absorb the beauty and sweetness of Krishna, the more we start to forget about my own personal agenda of being liberated. The more I only want to connect in affection and devotion, like I'm witnessing in the hearts of the Brijbasis, more than the Brijbasis of the Gopis, when I witness the extremity of their affection, that for them, one moment, even when they're blinking their eyes, when Krishna returns at the time of Goduli with the cows and all the dust has been raised, and they curse Lord Brahma, the creator, saying, why did you give us eyelids that blink? We lose a moment, a fraction. How long does it take to blink?
Hmm.
What is the time? And they are aware of that blinking is actually obstructing their view, their darshan
Hmm.
of the Lord of their life. So that is the extremity. And when they have Yugayata the Mishena, Chakshu Sampradaya, Sunyayitam Jagat Sarvam, Govinda
Govinda
Hrimre.
Hridayena.
One moment away from Krishna brings about the most intense separation, because that separation is going to ultimately intensify the meeting with Krishna. If there's no separation, then the meeting will be less. But when there's intense separation, and within that separation, we understand, ultimately there will be union. That Mohan and Modan Bhav, that is union within the separation. That's a whole other topic. Chudamani, in your opinion, is there no difference between an Aryan and a Yavana? So he's back to square one in a sense. Actually, he's been convinced.
Hmm.
And now he's a little bit bewildered because he's seeing the paramatic, the pure transcendental non-distinction between the um, souls,
Hmm.
the Muslims and the Hindus. So this is why he's asking the question. Vaishnav Das, there are two kinds of differences. Paramatic, that those that relate to the absolute, now he's going to repeat himself, those that relate to
Reality.
where it relate to the absolute reality, and vyavaharic, those that relate to practical experience. There is no paramatic difference between Aryans and Yavanas, yet the vyavaharic difference does exist. That's everything. Actually, he said everything just in that one sentence, but he has to say it again and again in different ways, because this personality is deeply rooted in this misconception that we should look at the vyavaharic consideration principally of birth. And if the Muslim is through his duskrita, sukriti, born in a lower birth, how can he possibly attain um, shuddha prakriti, sukriti? How can he possibly attain that? Bhakti sukriti. Chudamani, why do you insist on repeatedly showing off your verbosity in Vedanta? What do you mean by a vyavaharic difference between Aryans and Yavanas? Ignoring Chudamani's impertinence, Vaishnav Das answered, this is how we should behave. When someone is really confronting and rude to us, we should try to ignore that personal slight to us, because we don't have attachment to our material reputation, etc. That's not what we're trying to shore up. So if someone calls me a big fool, okay, what else is he saying? What else can I answer the question why he's thinking that? Can I give him something beneficial? Because if you take it personally, then you give that person um, the reality of committing an offense. And then what is the purpose of your preaching if you're just encouraging people to? Why did Mahaprabhu take sannyas when those students, they chased him? Oh, he chased the students rather. But then the students started to plot to actually beat Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu could understand this is not the purpose I've come to actually disturb people to such a degree like that, that they want to actually attack me. This is not productive where I'm going. So then he decided at that point, at that very point, There were many other reasons, of course, but that particular catalyst of the point was when I'll leave and take sannyas. So this people will be able to respect me. And when I'm chanting gopi, gopi, gopi like he was, then they're not going to confront me in that way. Um, Ignoring Chudamani's impertinence, Vaishnav Das answered, the term Vyavaharik refers to worldly customs. So he's explaining his language. Chudamani didn't understand the language. In domestic life, Yavanas are considered untouchable, so their association is unsuitable from the Vyavaharik or practical point of view. Aryans should not touch water or food that has been touched by a Yavana. The body of a Yavana is insignificant and untouchable because of his unfortunate birth. He's talking about the body, Vyavaharik. Chudamani. Then how can there possibly be no difference between Aryans and Yavanas from the absolute point of view? Please explain this clearly. So we'll discuss this point tomorrow. But he's more or less explained it all already, but he's just reiterating it so that we will get a deeper impression of it, because we're hearing all these different truths, and probably half of them we miss, but they've actually gone somewhere into the archive of our consciousnesses. And when it's necessary in a particular situation, Krishna will release those impressions from our consciousnesses to address whatever situation it is that we're facing. And I personally experienced this many times when I haven't been conscious of many of the different teachings that I've received. But when the actual instance comes, when I've needed that fund of knowledge, somehow, as if mystically, it'll come because the impression has already been made there, even if I haven't tried to sort of sustain it, but still the impression is there. This is why we should just listen and pray for the strength to absorb and realize these truths, not necessarily retain every single factor and so on, but just if you have realization, then you realize the mood, you realize the whole picture, and it's not like nothing is missing, you get the whole picture. So Jaiva-Dharma ki jai, Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Just let me see how many pages we have left here.
Few,
How many?
very few.
Yes.
5, 6.
So, yes, we have tomorrow and Saturday. I want to be on schedule, hopefully, to finish a chapter a week. That'll be a good speed. I'm not trying to go quickly or anything, but at the same time, I want to go to healthy stage because the book itself speaks for itself. Whatever other little comments I can throw in are very secondary to the actual body of the text. What the actual text is delivering is like the Srimad Bhagavatam, what that actually delivers and says. That is the highest to listen to. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo Hare Daikoda Haribol 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 Gouda Haribol Gouda Premanande Hari Haribol Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai Jaiva-Dharma ki jai Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevaja Patitanam Pavanivyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha Gouda Premanande.